California now. I'm not sure who I am.
It's alive.
And we're live. What's up, Kingdom of Rock? This is Matt Gibson, Michael Molenda, and we are here today with two incredible guitarists, Kat Dyson, Jennifer Batten. How's it going, ladies? How are you guys doing today?
Making my way through this California day.
Yeah, I'm having a California day up here. It's supposed to be in the 80s up here in Raineysville.
Where's that? Are you in Michael's territory?
No, I'm in Portland.
Oh, okay.
She's actually where it rains all the time. Actually,
wait a minute, Kevin. Our guest yesterday, Kevin Bruner from CD Baby, he is in Portland, right, Mike?
Yeah. CD Baby is right near the airport here.
Oh yeah. How serendipitous.
And he claimed it was a nice day yesterday when we talked to him, and neither of us believed him.
Yeah, we're like, we know it's snowing there. Don't lie to us.
No, so, and
Kat's in LA here with me.
Yeah.
And it's hot.
Well, I'm in the valley, and it's like close to 100 out.
Yeah, I'm in San Pedro, so it's a little bit. It's probably in the 80s here.
The water, so you get a little.
Yeah, get a little bit of coolness. Yeah. So, how are you doing today, Michael?
It is awesome. It's warm here, and everybody's healthy. I think, at least everybody I know. I guess we're not going to be opening up anytime soon, though. I just saw the news that nobody in California is going to meet Governor Newsom's criteria for opening up, or I think just there's some small pioneer towns that can open up, but none of the big cities can open up. So if you live in Pioneerville, you'll probably be going to a store or a movie theater sometime soon, but nobody else.
Now we're all going to do it. Let's just get a bus and just start driving people to the little towns and like
Yonkville or something.
Yeah, we could make our own little musician business to pay the bills.
Get a couple of parking lots. Get a couple of big
you know what?
Get a couple of big drive-in concerts. Everybody parties in their car. Put a stage up. Put a big screen up, big enough for the people that want to see, and like a drive-in movie, but drive-in concerts. They're doing it in Europe.
That's happening tomorrow night in Portland. There's a club called Garages that they're opening up the parking lot. I think you have to park in every other space, which that doesn't. Well, it does make sense. And then they have food carts there, and you text in your order, and they will deliver to your car. And there's a band playing, and so people are trying. People are getting all kinds of creative to try to figure this out.
What I'm saying.
Who would have known that, the demise of drive-in movie theaters and
all right, it's coming back.
Drive-in music theaters.
Do you guys have any drive-in movie theaters left in Southern California, or?
Yeah, there's some.
I know
there's one right now.
Where is it? Like far?
I read an article about it yesterday. While Michael's asking a question, I'll look it up.
Yeah,
but
proper. It's like in a smaller town or something like that.
Yeah, it's not like a main Montvale, maybe. Is that a town?
I don't know.
That might be Virginia.
Monrovia, maybe.
That might
be Monrovia. Yeah. Let me
Montville, whatever. Montville.
Sorry, we were just talking about Virginia. I think that's a town in Virginia. I don't know it.
Yeah.
Well, so how are you guys doing, Jennifer and Kat? Are you guys having losing a lot of work, obviously?
All of it.
Yeah, a lot of it is in all of it. Yeah. Right.
Yeah. We both had tons of bookings coming up. Springtime is usually, for me, is when the work really starts picking up. Christmas is over, NAMM show's over, and then you're on a plane for most of the rest of the year, and it's just gone.
Yeah.
You've been.
I had a contract signed, that was due to start March 27th. We were due to be in New Zealand and to do the big Byron Bay Festival in Australia, but we were going to rehearse in New Zealand, do a couple of days there, and then do that festival, and then with Zucchero, who's an Italian artist.
Oh yeah.
So I lost my gig first because when Italy became a hot spot, that was like. They couldn't get out because the front part of the tour was due to be New Zealand, Australia, the U.S., Canada, Mexico, and then starting in June, Europe. So it was supposed to start even away, so they couldn't get out. and half the band is Italian, half the band is American. You know, so I've just been in touch with my friends and just making sure, you know, and they're in they're in hell over there, but they're getting around it. You know, the curve, you know, is happening, but everybody lost somebody, and but you know, the Italian people are resilient. You know. So,
Yes, go, my countrymen. Yay, Italian.
brava.
I don't know what you've been doing to kind of keep yourself engaged, Kat, but I'm a little closer with Jennifer. We keep in touch all the time, and Jennifer's been quite busy with various little online thingies she's doing. Would you like to share some of that with the Kingdom of Rock, Jennifer?
Yeah, sure. I spent about 2 months swimming in a swamp of tutorials, trying to figure out how to. I mean, my first thing was doing streaming concerts, which I still haven't done because with my people don't know I do a multimedia show where I play in sync with film. I was trying to figure out how to get me in there on a green screen with the film playing in the background where I control the on and off. And I just had a breakthrough 2 days ago and figured out how to do it. So I will be booking some shows on probably stageit.com.
Mm-hmm.
I know that my buddy Andy Timmons has done a bunch over there, and he's doing really well.
Mm-hmm.
And you know, we have to join the digital world. I've had a YouTube channel for years, and I would just put things up periodically, and like tour vlogs. I'd be out for a month or 6 weeks, and then it would take me about 40 hours to put together a 10 or 15 minute synopsis of this is what happened in the last 6 weeks. And you know, it took so long to do, I couldn't keep putting those up like that. But now that we're home all the time, I'm doing 2 new playlists on my YouTube channel. One is called the Riff Kitchen, where well, it started out every day, but I can't quite keep up the pace of putting up a riff. I'll play it fast, I'll play it slow. Right now, I'm in the middle of doing a series on blues turnarounds, and I'll explain the riff that I'm doing, where it's coming from. I got the chords listed in the background, and you know, that's one thing that's keeping me busy, and it's kind of fun. I've been putting riffs on my phone for years that I'll never go back and find, and I just discovered that it's much easier to just start jamming and go, oh, I like that, and then record it and put it out. And then I have another one that is reaching way more people, obviously, because it's not just for guitar players. It's backstage stories, behind the scenes, you know, how I got the Michael Jackson gig, and I'll eventually get into the Jeff Beck gig. And, you know, there's Kat knows when you've been on the road for 30 years, there's a whole lot of stories. It's just a matter of having your memory triggered. And I've also started doing Facebook Lives, and the questions that people ask are triggering new memories. People checking in from different countries. I go, oh yeah, Greece. Oh yeah, Romania. I remember that. There's stories connected to all of them. So, you know, and it's one thing to put up videos, and it's another thing to get your 4,000 hours, that is the minimum, to be able to monetize your channel. And I'm slowly getting to the halfway point, but you know, with the bills coming in, I'm looking at tutorials a lot on how to speed it up. And you know, most creative people don't want to spend their life in advertising, but we are forced to at this point.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, well, Kat, what about you? What are you doing?
Well, prior to all this, Jennifer and I actually, you know, did a couple of things live in front of an audience where we were talking about our experiences and did a bit of playing. So, you know, we kind of stepped into that. And prior to that, I had always been doing online sessions, online teaching. Now I'm writing with different artists. I got on a couple of weeks ago and did something with Dion Ferris, and a friend of mine sent me a track that is possibly going to Rihanna. So, you know, people are finding out, oh, do you have this? Do you have that? Do you have that? And I kind of transitioned into that 5 years ago, clients. And now, you know, now that everybody's doing it, they're like, well, do you have all these things? And I'm like, yeah, and if I don't have it, I was in, you know, tutorial mode, just like Jen, and we laughed about it. And so I've been doing a bit of that. And then Cyndi Lauper called me out of the blue and said, hey, let's do an unplugged version of a song called Hope, because I just want to do something. And it's posted on Instagram. And then a couple of other friends of mine are, you know, found out ways to play together but not together, and put it all together so it looks and sounds good, but it is live. It's as close as we can get. But so I'm kind of jumping in, not as deep as Jen is because she's got a lot more content. But I did get together with a friend of mine, Joel Beatty, who's a DJ and a visual artist, and he took a song that I felt the lyrics, were timely for now, and we put it out called "Love Someone," and he just went and did some images. It's on Facebook, and he and I are working, on a 6-song EP right now with the uplift, but still with good music, dance music, still keeping you up, still, nothing dreary or, so esoteric that you can't dance to it and party to it. But, I'm getting in touch with friends. I'm like, I was telling Matt, they say we're social distancing, but we're not. We're closer socially than I think we have been. We are physically distancing from each other. Socially, because of social media, I think we're closer in a lot of ways.
Which with all the tension in the country, physical distancing might be a good thing. People getting mad about stuff. But it's really cool that if this would have happened in the 80s, can you imagine how much more devastating it would have been for artists? Like now, or what are your thoughts on that? Like now that we have the internet, you can learn anything you need to know by, there's the educational systems in place. There's tons of learning. There's tons of ways to connect with people as an independent person. What do you guys think the value of the current system is versus like if this would have happened back in the 80s?
My mind in this goes somewhere between apocalypse and sabbatical. And
right.
So I'm like down for a week, and then I'd see the light for a few days. And honestly, you think of the gigs we've been doing, just slogging around the world for years, playing in clubs to X amount of people, compared to the potential amount of people you could reach on the internet. It almost seems stupid to get out of your house. I mean, we're trying to figure out how to get to those people, how to get to more people, but the potential of this is amazing. And even with clinics, one thing that's so cool is teachers have been forced to figure out Zoom and forced to figure out how to teach online. So I'm thinking, why can't I teach in every college on the planet? Making those connections is a hell of a lot of work, and there's a whole lot of emails that go unanswered, but I do see the upside of it very much.
And the good thing, and maybe the not so good thing about a place like YouTube, which has a lot of content for free, unless the students really want someone like you or like me, they'll go, oh, I can learn it as a free video, or that guy's doing this. So, I think that there's going to have to maybe be an extension of some of these places where, okay, these are pro lessons and this is a pro site for, if you want that, for everybody to be on the same thing. I mean, there's got to be a way so that, a lesson with Jennifer Batten doesn't lose its value because Joe Blow is, showing that he can play the same song.
Well, if the only thing that you're trying to learn is how to move your fingers a certain way to make the music, I could see that. But both of you guys have amazing experiences that no one on YouTube will ever have. And I wanted to ask, starting with you, Kat, what is your, tell us a little bit about your musical journey. How did you get into music, and how did you get to where you are today?
Well, I grew up and was born and grew up in Virginia, and my family was Catholic, so I actually grew up singing Latin, which was, the Catholic Church. The services were in Latin, so I grew up singing in different languages at a very early age. I sang first, and then, as I got older, the boys in the neighborhood started getting guitars while I was taking piano lessons, which I was absolutely bored about, and we didn't own piano. And I had to practice at the teacher's house. which made it doubly hard because he's listening and I can't make any mistakes. So I said, Mom, I want a guitar. And a little paper in our town had a section in the Sunday paper. It says, learn guitar easy with these two things. You know what I mean? It's got like a little section and you teach yourself guitar. So my mom bought me an acoustic guitar and I started to teach myself. And but you know, my formal training was piano and voice. So when I got to university, I was studying classical voice and jazz guitar with John Shacklet and Stella Moorhead, who also taught the Wooten brothers. So that was beginning, but all through that, even from age 13, I was 5'10". I was playing in clubs. As long as I didn't drink, nobody said anything. So we were always doing top 40 bands and top 40 things. And,
yeah, I read on your website your dad didn't like you going out in the clubs playing.
Nah, he's sneaking in, show up, you know. It's like, oh yeah, you're supposed to be home because he'd be working. My mom passed when I was 11. After she got me the guitar, she passed the next year. So, and I'm the eldest, so I was doing all kinds of cheating and lying and getting in trouble. But yeah, so you know, once I got to university, and you know, and I was still doing jingles, doing vocals, doing guitar. It's still melding the two. One of my college buddies got wind of an investor, and we went to Montreal, started an originals band. We won their version of Star Search there called Rock Wars, and then producer from that show sent our tape to Star Search, and we ended up doing that, and we won that too. So, and all in between having the originals band, I was working with different artists. Celine Dion, a lot of French Canadian artists, Richard Seguin, Rock Voisine, and then I met Felicia Collins, another great female guitar player. She was with the Thompson Twins, and she was a protege of Nile Rodgers. She's fantastic, and she got called to play the Letterman show, and she was playing with Cyndi Lauper, and then Cyndi Lauper was auditioning, so I went and auditioned for Cyndi, and got back into the States and worked with Cyndi, and Cyndi took a bit of time off. Then I met Sheila E., and the day I met Sheila E. for the second time in Germany, it was at the Messe, and that's when I met Jennifer for the first time. She may or may not remember.
Oh, cool.
We were demonstrating for Godin guitars, and you were across at a booth, and you were having some technical issues, so you were a little bit snappy. That's when I first Then we stuck around and saw you play. You were like, this is not working. And, there was something that wasn't going on. But I met Jennifer and Sheila at the same time. So that's pretty awesome. And then we should end up friends now. Fantastic.
That's awesome. So Jennifer, have you ever thrown a monitor before? Or kicked over a monitor on a stage?
I haven't thrown one, but I have fallen over one.
Yeah.
I did a face plant on the very last dress rehearsal on the Bad Tour with Michael Jackson. And the costumes were very last minute, and Michael wasn't changing. So his tempo of calling out the next song had nothing to do with him changing costumes, and he didn't take into account that I had to change for Beat It. And when he called out the next song, I'm like, oh shit. And I didn't have time to put on my shoes. So I ran across the stage. There was a blackout, and I did a face plant across the monitor. Oh
man.
And broke my guitar.
When they don't put the gold tape on the monitor, you're finished.
Yeah. That's when I discovered glow tape was in those rehearsals.
Wow. Well, have you guys, back to Michael's thing about the 80s and now, I think it would, it's devastating now. It would have been devastating then. I think sometimes it is hard because, as Kat said, no matter what your name is or what your legacy is, there's a lot of distortion up there on the web, and to be able to have your fans, it's easy if your fans can find you, because you can reach out to them directly. To get new fans and converts is always more difficult. So have you, as you've worked through this pandemic, have you found Facebook or Twitter or YouTube is better or worse, or it's all the same to try to get new people into your slipstream, so to speak?
Something I've noticed, I can put up a JPEG, I can put up a notice, I can put up this and that on Facebook. And I've just started in the last few weeks doing Facebook Live, and people glom to that like ants on a lollipop.
Mhm.
Going live is the way. And I haven't done enough of it to be able to compare Instagram. I just did Instagram for the first time last week, Instagram Live. And a buddy of mine turned me on to it and said, here's how you can add another person so you can actually talk to them instead of just read text responses.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm planning to do YouTube next week, because the whole idea of me going live is to get people to my YouTube channel to look at my new content. And there's just a small percentage of people that check in with the Facebook Live that ever go over there. So I think YouTube is the way to go for me.
I've heard that paid advertising via Google search, AdWords or AdSense, I think it's one or the other, AdWords or AdSense, but it's that's probably the best way to get is paid traffic to YouTube to get them to subscribe, like is what I've heard, but I don't know.
We've done as Jennifer knows, I don't know if Kat knows, but I'm working with modern drummer now after being 20 years a guitar player, and we've been looking at paid search for subscription models and things, and Google search, I mean, everyone tells you in the advertising community that that's the way to go, that paid search to bring you to whatever initiative you have that's going to make you money, but it is expensive, and it does take a little bit of learning what the keywords you really need. I mean, I'm not saying it's not worth it. It could help everybody, out there get more subscribers to their YouTube channels, but it does take some doing. And we actually have a company doing it for us. So there's, that scenario as well. You're paying somebody to help you out. So that's a bit, but also I guess, as Jennifer, you mentioned, YouTube is really the way for artists of any level to actually earn some money during this, because you do have the Google AdSense scenario. I can't see where Facebook, or although you can monetize videos on Facebook somehow, I've read that.
Well, I'm going to break in because I'm very excited about Zuckerberg's announcement, I think last week, that he's going to have these rooms that you can have up to 50 people, and he's working out a way that you can charge entrance. So for instance, you could give a clinic and ask for $10 a pop or whatever. So that will bring Facebook up to a whole new level of viability for us.
Yeah, if they can figure out a way to not let the sniper guys go, hey, we unlocked it and you can get in for free, because there's a whole lot of cyber machinations going on to make it super secure. That's where the cost is, I would guess.
Yeah, well, thank God most of us aren't that smart, Kat, but I guess if somebody
I'm talking
can't
about
get to the code and invites everybody else in for free, that would be bad.
Well, another thing about YouTube that is really important, and Instagram too, is if you can find people that are your friends and that like you, like your music, or are affiliated with some of the camps that you've worked with, or whatever it is, that are super successful on that platform. You can do influencer marketing with them. So you want to promote in the ecosystem that you're promoting in. So like if you can find a successful YouTuber that really loves you and wants to help you out, you go to them and you say, hey, would you mind doing a video with me? And I'm trying to grow my YouTube channel, and I want to make a video with you, whether it's a live stream or something, and you can get them to talk to their people. You should be kind of a similar audience, a guitar audience or something that would work with your brand. And you can do influencer marketing that way too. That's a good way to do it. And it's just like anything, you need to ask specifically what it is that you want. So if you're looking for subscribers, there needs to be a prompt, like just like money in artists, we don't want to ask, but if you don't ask, you're not going to get anything. Maybe you might get something, but not too much. So have a call to action, and do the influencer marketing. I think that'll help you too. Just a thought.
Hey, Kat, you said you've been doing some song collaborating. What do you feel is the pros and cons of having to do it virtually?
You know, there was no real con because, I got to connect with somebody I hadn't seen in a while. And, Cyndi Lauper and I stayed online, with each other going through it. And she's like, okay, I'm trying to do this with this program. And, we're talking and we're looking at, tutorials together. And, and I was on Instagram and I started chatting with Dion Ferris, who's a fantastic vocalist and songwriter. And I had a friend who was in town who's from Atlanta. She's in Atlanta. And, we got on Skype. She had a keyboard and a microphone. I had a guitar. He had a keyboard. And we just started writing. And so it was, because I've kind of been doing that kind of thing. I did a thing with CC Pedersen a couple of years ago. I'm always in touch with people in Europe. I'm always doing. I did a session with great artists from Japan. So I've kind of been dabbling in that, but I've been more in the support way rather than my own content. So, everybody's saying, well, you haven't put out anything since your EP that you put out like 15 years ago, because I've been touring with other people. So I'm finding I finally now have time to kind of jump into that, but I'm still collaborating with people, which I love. And
but doesn't it take a little bit of a different mindset? Because if you're like in a typical Brill building situation, you and I would be sitting next to each other collaborating. Oh yeah, stay on that riff. But now, because of the latency with most, online endeavors, it's like you kind of have to wait till you're done playing, I guess. And then Cyndi would go, well, maybe that, but not this. Can you play that again? Is that kind of how it goes?
Yeah, but it wasn't as bad because we were just basically doing an arrangement of something she had written, and she's like, okay, I'm gonna send you the loop. Now send me this, and then we keep it on, and we chat a little bit. So it wasn't terrible, because we're friends.
And you didn't have to drive in LA traffic. Do you think that's going to permanently change now that people have been forced to learn this technology in LA? And for example, do you think it's going to change that people are just going to stay at home and do more things in the music industry?
Already kind of shifted that way with the onset of home studios and software and Pro Tools and all that kind of. Pro Tools was the beginning of the end of the death of the big tape studio, blah, 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 even though, they incorporated the software, but just, being able to have all that in your house has already worn on the LA studio scene to a certain extent. So this is definitely the next phase, but I don't think it'll ever kill the sound stage, but I think that people are jumping in more and trying to see the upside of it rather than being isolationist. Let's find out how we can do it more together. So I think people like the Zoom people are going to have to, do something for, call it music Zoom.
Right. Yeah, where it works better.
Together and do that kind of thing. And there's always been sites. There's been sites over time where people were jamming together and they were jam sites and all that kind of stuff. So this is not new technology, but I think now the push is to get it done.
Yeah, we've been talking that Matt and I, now's the time for some genius to come up with, to solve the latency problem, like you said, in software. You don't have to buy anything extra. You don't have to jiggle this. It's just some genius needs to figure out how, all four of us could play together right now. There'd be no latency. It would just be like.
Yeah, I got a friend in Vancouver that I told Jen about who's kind of working on that. He's building a virtual TV studio, but he has come up with a way to generate to each person, click and
oh, that's cool.
The sync and everything, he can.
Yeah, that's great.
So, and he's in the studio. He's kind of the Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
So he's working it out. So it is coming.
Well, there are big brains out there, and now's the time for them to get to work. Get to work. Solve this.
I got a big brain. Yeah, but okay.
I don't have a big brain. I'll wait for somebody else to solve it.
Okay.
I just want to use it when the big brains make it happen.
Exactly.
So coming back to Jennifer, for people in Kingdom of Rock that aren't familiar with you, which I couldn't imagine too many people are not familiar with Jennifer Batten. How did you get into music, and how did you get to where you are today as an artist? In 10 words or less. No, I'm kidding.
It started from jealousy, because when I was 8 years old, my sister had a guitar and I didn't, and that just pissed me off. So I asked my parents for my next, I think it was the following Christmas that I got a guitar. And back then it was kind of rare, but I got an electric guitar for my first guitar, which I thought was super badass, because it was like the Beatles that were all over TV at the time. And my little town was all about Beatlemania. So I started taking lessons like most kids in the local music shop for many years. The family moved several times and I ended up with new teachers. So I went from, learning in the Mel Bay book, learning how to read the first 3 frets, to the next guy taught me finger picking, and the next person was into blues, and the next one was into rock. So I got a lot of different genres. And eventually, Musicians Institute, when it first started, was just a guitar school, and they advertised in Guitar Magazine about a weekend symposium they were doing.
It was
so
like
I
GIT,
drove,
right?
yeah.
Yeah, GIT, yeah.
So I drove up from San Diego to do that for the weekend, having no intention of joining the school. And I ended up, by the end of the weekend, I took a test to get into the school and flunked miserably, because although I knew a bunch of genres and techniques and stuff, I was never taught the tools of the trade, never taught a chord scale or diatonic scales, only blues scales. And so I went back to San Diego, studied with a great jazz player named Peter Sprague, and 6 months later, I was able to get into the school. So that year was the most intense education of my life, to the point where I never wanted to go to school again. So, and I will say that the school gave me the skills I needed to continue my own education on my own. So that's my story.
So, and you've played with a few influential artists in your time, like Michael Jackson, for example. We were talking about that. Was when that first happened, what was that moment where you finally walked out on a stage and you're like, I cannot believe this is happening?
Yeah, wow, that was 1987 in Tokyo with Michael. And I remember, certain thoughts are burned in your brain forever. I remember the anxiety during the day of wondering how it would feel. We had done, 2 months of really intense rehearsals, and I think any performer that's ever been out there knows what it's like you just be slamming in your bedroom, right? You got it down, you can play to the tracks great, and all of a sudden you fall on your face on stage from nerves or whatever.
Right.
So delightfully, from the downbeat, it was just awesome, because we were so well rehearsed. There was no question about what's the next chord or what's the next tune and when's my cue. It was just second nature. And at that point, it was just about having fun and performing. So it was good times. And I was a fan of his music before I got in the gig too. So that was an extra bonus.
But that must be something for both you and Kat, where, like you said, you practice in your bedroom and you got your chops together. You go to GIT or whatever school. But now you're on stage with a major artist, and you not only have to have that technical facility, but you have to have charisma. You have to deal with choreography. You have to wear the costumes you have to change and not face plant to get into the other costume in time. I mean, it must be quite a bit of a mind screw to all of a sudden step into that from, where musicians normally start, which is practicing in their bedrooms.
Yeah, I mean, I think, being a kid in Virginia, we always had, the talent shows and the, playing in the clubs, and, whatever band had the, best steps or knew the latest, greatest, because Virginia Beach wasn't far away. So there was all the beach clubs. And if your band was good enough, so we kind of got into the performance part of it early. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, but when you get with somebody like Michael or Prince or Cyndi Lauper, that whole thing is on 20,000, because it's very intricate. They got a certain way, they got an image, they got people, everything's coming at you, zoom, 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 you know. So
How did you deal with it? Let's say with Prince or Cyndi, to realize that I've got all this data coming at me now. I have to play guitar, but also deal with this other stuff. I mean, how did you manage all that and still be able to perform charismatically? I guess, is that fair?
well, like I said, I got to go back to, you know, playing in top 40 bands and keeping people moving in 5 sets a night. You know, that was a hell of a thing, and you couldn't be on stage, you know, as a dud. And hilarious. We were playing I was in a band called Weekend Affair, and we were playing in a club in Virginia Beach, and Casey and the Sunshine Band had been through it. Something had happened, and he fired his whole band and saw said, "You're coming on the road with me," and we were all like kids, you know. And he's like, "You're coming on for this gig. I got to do it." Virginia. He got mad and he just fired everybody. I don't know if it was a power play or something, but you know. But we grew up watching all these people perform and do the steps, and you know, it's who has the better steps, and the moms would make costumes. So it was a primer, you know, in a way for that. And we always had bands and stuff like that. So we, you know, and my originals band, we were always into that kind of thing, and we did fusion, and we did R&B, and we did many different things. So when you get there and they have a vision, then you have to surrender to their vision. You can't really be yourself because, you know, I got there. Prince was like, he showed me this album cover of Shaka Khan, and she had on moccasins, and she had this whole Indian look. As he looked at me, like,
I remember that.
He asked me, "You're from Virginia? You got?" And I said, "Yeah, my grandmother's half Cherokee. What do you think about wearing moccasins?" And I was like, you know. But he was such a jokester, I could tell whether he was serious or whether he was kidding. But he would always, you know, ask and say, "Well, let's wear this. Why don't you wear that? We're all going to wear gold. And, you know, I want you to have the boots." And, you know what I mean? He had a vision, just like Cyndi had a vision. Cyndi, one day we just, you know, all the girls dressed up in suits, you know, and the guys had all flowy stuff, or, you know, she took my dreadlocks and put them up in the tallest beehive. I counted. We were in Britain doing the Brit Awards, and they put 150 hairpins in my hair for me to.
Wow.
They actually counting them as they put them in.
How long did it take to get that taken apart? That's what I want to know.
Because, you know, as a support person, you do have to surrender yourself, your own sensibilities, to give the artist what they need. You know,
was it the same for you, Jennifer? Did kind of gigging previous to Michael Jackson help you out, or did you have another path into maintaining your own personality and dealing with all this multimedia stuff?
I think any hour you spend on stage culminates in more and more confidence. You know, so and I think doing the cover band thing is one of the greatest trainings ever, because it's like you need to emulate 40 different artists and tones and styles. And honestly, playing with Michael Jackson or whoever, it's like a glorified cover band, except all the hits are by the same guy.
Mhm.
So it's just another level of doing the same thing with usually better equipment, because there's a budget all of a sudden. And with him, you know, he had a vision of what I should look like, which was nothing like I walked in. You know, he knew enough about the visual excitement to hire artists to draw up a look for every performer, and then hired wardrobe people to take measurements and make the paintings come to life, and the wardrobe or the makeup and hair make that come to life. So it's just an ongoing thing. It's just I took a giant leap forward, jumping from doing Hollywood clubs to the biggest gigs on earth.
Did you, Kat, did you have a moment in your career that you look back and you're like, I can't believe this is happening? Like where it was just mind blowing to you? Or was it just all like a trajectory?
It was all like a plane taking off, because, you know, I said, "Mom, I'm bored. I don't want to play piano anymore." She gives me a guitar. She passes away. I start playing, and I promised myself I wouldn't put it down. You know, that's the last thing she left me. So, you know, I have been just trying to, you know, keep in that path, because I felt like, you know, even though I had the idea, she chose it for me, and I honor her every time I do it, no matter who I do it with. So that's my main motivation, and to serve the music, serve it first, because, you know, I didn't have YouTube. I didn't have, you know, I had radio, and we, you know, put our money together and bought, you know, the singles or the CDs, you know what I mean? You got this? Okay, I got that. You know, you sit, you listen, you learn, you know, you learn by ear, especially top 40. You know, we get into rehearsal and go, okay, James Brown got 3 new songs out this week. You know, you're in rehearsal, you put the record on, you learn it. If we learn it, we get more work than that guy. You know what I mean? So,
and both of your work ethics, I know, are immense. And it was interesting because I think yesterday Tom Morello said, I'm really pissed off at guitarists today who won't spend 8 hours in their room learning their craft. I don't think that was the exact quote, but it was all over the webosphere, you know, that he was pissed off at the new generation of guitar players. And I think sometimes we forget that, you know, both in your own stories and in the stories of a lot of people who are successful, it's like diving in and being that committed is a part of your success story.
yeah, but I mean, you know, the younger players are doing it, but what they're doing is taping themselves doing it. So that's, you know, I guess that's part of their process. It's not something I would do. And, you know, and I've had students and people ask me, why don't you post yourself working out some? I'm like, how boring would that be?
Yeah.
Well,
I mean,
and you know,
how boring would that be as I sit here and try to, you know, unpack something that, you know, maybe a little bit different or difficult, or something that I'm just stepping into. You know, once you get it done, that's fine. But the thing, you know, I think that there's a limit to that, because then if you post so much stuff, when people see you, what is there left to see?
Yeah. I think to Tom's point, though, you know, where I was a guitar player for so many years, and I've mentioned this to Matt before and in other interviews, you know, you get guitar players who are, you know, B-level or C-level famous, just pissed off that they're not A-level famous, but they never put in the work to be A-level famous. And I think, you know, for what you both have done to make sure you have the chops, make sure you're ready to go when the time comes, you know, sometimes even more mature guitar players forget that you have to really work at this. It's not just, you know, a genie comes down and says you're going to be a star someday.
You know, I think something that's really tainting the pool is shows like American Idol, that kind of stuff, where it's all about fame.
Yeah,
you know, that's what everybody's going for, without, you know, the millions of people that are watching that don't realize the work that is under the tip of the iceberg, that you know, years and years and years of home practice and stage time. Most people are not going to just pop to the top without putting in the work. And if they do, they're most likely not going to stay there. It's going to be flash in the pan.
Well, I saw a video. There's this YouTuber, Jared Dines. I don't know if you guys have ever seen him. He's a younger guy, up and coming guitar player, rock guy. And he had a duel on his YouTube channel with a guy using a laptop to play the guitar. Right. And so the guy, he was doing the like guitar solos and, you know, just ripping it up on the fretboard. And then this guy came back with a laptop and was playing triggers, and like, because he came to the gig and he's like, hey, bro, what's up? He's like, yeah, we're going to record some guitars today. He's like, all right, man, I got my guitar here. And he's like, what do you need that for? He's like, I got the laptop here. And so they kind of like did a duel, and it's ridiculous. As far as producing the sound on the recording, you almost don't need musicians anymore. And it's starting to get to a level where only a musician is going to be able to tell that it's not real. And sometimes even then you can't. What do you guys think to the, you know, to speak to musicianship, playing the actual instruments and not just producing music for the ears, but also the visual and playing it organically like that. What's your take on that?
I think the ultimate excitement is creativity, no matter what tools you use to get your ideas out. And one of my favorite drum solos of all time is programmed. It's by a DJ called Adam Freeland on his first record called Tectonics. I just adore that record, and it's all programmed, but it's the human that's programming it that makes the music that excites me.
And I'll say that a lot of that algorithm, you still have to have a music source. This guy with this laptop still had to get that guitar sound from somewhere. He didn't just pull it out of the air. Somebody had to play that information for him to then take it and program and do that combination of notes. So, to say you don't need a musician, that's stretching a bit, because, there's no computer that can generate that without an original source of an actual guitar being played by a person. You know what I mean?
Very true. Very true.
So, it has its place and it has its limits. But the point is, how far can you go with that? Can you fill a stadium like the Rolling Stones fill a stadium with 4 guys with the computers doing like this?
Right. But can you fill a Zoom room that way now? Maybe.
It's funny because I just kind of pissed myself off by reading, I think, last month's Vanity Fair, which had a feature of all the top DJs in the world. I mean, in these, it's a mind blower to see that they start out in Ibiza and they end up touring all over Europe, and they can pull down $18 to $40 million a year.
Yep.
But to Kat's point, as much as I might be jealous that you can make 18 million, getting digital files back and forth, there is a musicality involved in being able to make that source material work for a large audience, and then to be able to actually attract that audience to a point where they're paying you, that much money to do that. I don't really have a point here. It's just amazing.
Like Kat
it's
moving people.
Whatever can draw an audience, in all the tutorials I've been studying about streaming and all this, I've really gotten a new insight into the gaming world. And my neighbor was telling me about one of these gamers that gets people from all over the world to watch him play games, makes 10 grand a day. It seems absolutely absurd, except that people like it. So you kind of got to cater to what people want to see to a degree.
Right. But there's a whole scene of gamers and what they do and how they play with different people in different places, and they have their whole thing. I don't know that I would call that entertainment in the same way as a music, or a ballet, or it doesn't bring about the same emotion. As far as sports goes, yes, in the sports arena, I think that's looked more at in a sports type of way rather than a creativity and
sure.
You know what I mean? It's more of a sports in my house, and I can be the champion, and I'm just sitting in my pajamas, eating cornflakes, playing. But I think I have great friends of mine who are melding beautiful music with virtual worlds that is open and creative and is never the same. It is fluid and it's beautiful. There are people that are doing that, So there is a way to meld them, and it's happening. And I think with something like this, we're being pushed more towards finding that, to get the visuals to go with something, that you come up with. I think, videos and all that stuff, what you use, you can't do the big concerts. The visual you come up to go along with your song is what's, gonna make it happen. You know what I mean?
That's one of the things I was, looks like she's left the building, hopefully temporarily, but that's one of the things that excited me about Jennifer when she started doing her multimedia shows. It's like, oh, you know, finally, here's a solo instrumental guitarist for the most part, although she does play for tracks, who has found a way to do something exciting and soul attracting and beautiful, you know, or scary, depending on what track she's using.
And humorous. I mean, we did some stuff together, and I was out in the audience watching her just laughing my guts out. I'm like, why did you put that image with that song? But it kind of goes, you know? Yeah. So she's one, and my friend Jan Pulsford is another. She was Cyndi Lauper's co-writer. She does a virtual world thing that's just fantastic. Mm-hmm. I mean, you know, so there are people out there that are taking it and molding it, shaping it.
Oh yeah, somebody just did a giant concert in a virtual world. I can't remember who it was, but it was like a big, and people were all plugged into their computers, watching it, attending it, you know. And it's, I mean, so Yazara says music is souls at work, you know, and it's kind of like, that's kind of a beautiful way of saying that, you know. It's just a reflection of our soul, an expression of our soul.
Yazara just came off tour with Madonna on the Madam X tour, but she has her own music and her own visuals, and she's an actress as well. And she just, I think she just was part of a sci-fi movie, or you know, really historical movie, you know, where she's kind of a superhero, but she's an amazing vocalist, an amazing dancer, amazing multimedia, and when she does her own thing, she brings it forward. Ray Angry from The Roots produced her record, you know what I mean? So we're all looking to meld. And then my other fantastic friend, Tamar Kali, who is pretty much the mother of Afropunk. I met her when she was, you know, just doing music, and she's scoring films. She did a multimedia piece we did in Chicago that's just fantastic, with dance, with history, with, you know, with social issues, everything in one place. You know, so there are people out there that are taking these things and melding them together, you know, putting the music, putting the live, you know, with the dance, with visuals, you know, and then a techno thing that happens. So, you know, I think that people are sophisticated enough that, you know, they want the totality of it. Like a 3D thing is just not going to be that same guy just sitting in his pajamas video game. You know, you got to give them more, you know. And well, the ones that get it right will prosper, you know.
Well, we're getting to the top of the hour, and hopefully Jennifer will come back here before we wrap up. But I think she answered her phone and might have had to bow out. But I want to give everybody a chance to say something before we close out, and start with Michael. Do you have any last words, Michael?
No, I don't really have anything. I mean, I'm just, thanks to Jennifer and Kat for being on the show. It's always great to have your experiences shared with the Kingdom of Rock audience. I think it's amazingly helpful to people out there who are wondering how to channel their creativity, how to get out of their own heads, how to keep their morale up during this pandemic, and having you know, musicians and creators of your quality and heart on the show helps us all. So thank you for spending the time to come in and share with our audience.
Thank you for having me. I mean, in December, I did a fundraiser with Cyndi Lauper where she had Henry Rollins and Marilyn Manson, and I got to play that kind of music with those guys.
I want to see that. Is that on the internet?
Absolutely, it's on the internet.
Okay, I'm gonna go look that up.
December 8th, December 9th, and you know, Cyndi and Marilyn are doing The Beautiful People, and we're Cindy's band, and she's like, "You guys are turning into a punk band." And I get to play with Henry Rollins and all those guys, and it was just my early days of wanting to play the loudest, most craziest stuff, so I would drive my father crazy. Because even though I did the R&B clubs, we did top 40 bands where we just did rock, you know. So I was always a crazy little black girl. What, you want me to play that? Okay, let's play it, you know. So, you know, I mean, those type of, you know, and Marilyn was talking about how he was going to get together, you know, with Chuck D and a couple of other people, and you know, merge some of his heavy rock with, you know, with some hip hop artists, you know, and everybody's And now that we are apart, we are coming more together with even crazier ideas, and I think that that's fantastic. You know?
Awesome. That's awesome.
Well, we're going to wrap up. I think Jennifer's probably either having technical difficulties or had to go to something and deal with it. But thank you so much, Kat, for being on the show.
Jen, thank you guys. I really appreciate this.
Well, and everyone, I just wanted to remind you this weekend on Sundays we have two things. We have a guest meetup, so all the show guests get together and we do a Zoom call. So all the previous guests of the show. So if you guys are welcome to, I'll send you an invite to that. But also we have a community meetup after that in Zoom. And so if people would like to come to the community meetup, just join the Kingdom of Rock Backstage Pass Facebook group, and we post the link in there. And so we're just trying to bring everybody together. So like Kat was talking about earlier. So thanks again, Kat Dyson, Michael Molenda as usual, Jennifer Batten, not here, but virtually.
Yeah.
And Kingdom of Rock out.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.